Hi folks, so my name is Yuan and I'm super glad to be here today to present my talk from classroom to conference stage, how extracurricular can launch your tech career. So let's just go back a little bit, okay? 5 years ago, I got married with my husband, and he's right there, by the way. You see the photo, me picking his ear. That's my favorite photo from the wedding. And afterwards, so after we got married, I moved from a city called Guangzhou in China to Belfast. And you know, before I moved, I was picturing, my life is gonna be amazing, you know, it's gonna be a new chapter of my life. There's gonna be rainbow, sunshine, whatever. Well, but you know what? I couldn't find a job. And I don't have the weather also. And I had no friends here, and honestly, I had no plans about my future, and that was scary, you know. So just a little bit about me today. I'm currently an associate software engineer at a company called Liberty IT. So basically what we do is that we do all the tech stuff for Liberty Mutual Insurance Group. And besides work, I'm currently the chair at British Computing Society, Northern Ireland chapter, organizers at DevFest Ireland, Women Tech Makers Belfast, and Google Developer Group Belfast. Along the journey, also got some award. It will be nicer if they come with cash, you know, but you know what, it's still good. So what I'm about to share with you folks here today, they come from real world experience. What worked, what didn't, and what I wish I had known better. So in this talk, I had divided this talk into 4 different sessions. So first, let's talk about how tech community can open new doors for you. Then let's move on a little bit, talk about certification, you know, why it can be valuable for your career growth. Then let's talk about a little bit about networking, and web buff talking about building a personal brand. And I really hope that by the end of this talk, you can get some key takeaways. So let's get started. So when we think about career growth in tech, it's often that we associate that with, you know, year of experience, education, background, etc., right? But there's one part that often goes neglected, which is community. At first, I was like, you know what, why? Why should I join those tech community, go into their event, conference, etc., right? But over time, I realized is that by participating in those space and going to those events can open new doors for you, can unlock opportunities that you wouldn't get anywhere else. So first of all, in a community, learning happens so much faster because we are surrounded with folks with different experience and different knowledge. I personally find learning in this way is better than sitting in front of your desk doing some online course or something like that. And also, tech moves fast, you know. There's constantly going to be like new model, new feature, architect, best practices, etc. And they're constantly emerging, and staying in the community can help you stay ahead of the curve. Also, it's always great to meet like-minded folks. And move on to inspiration, right? So just like here today, I'm sure you folks already heard some other speaker when they speak, you know, heard their talks or maybe chat with the folks in here already. And you know what? People are so passionate about what they do. And that's contagious, you know, it motivates you to push yourself further. Also expose you to like different career paths that you might not consider before. Not joking, when I started in university, I was thinking like, after I graduate, I want to be a QA. Yeah, thank God I did not go for that route. I realized that's actually not my cup of tea. So in a community, you will find folks probably that in different industries. You know, they probably in like DevOps, IoT, cybersecurity, etc. And then you might rethink your options. Also for creative ideas and collaborations, lots of interesting ideas and projects. Just start with a simple conversation. So like here today, maybe you will chat with some folks, some idea clicks or personality clicks, you know. You never know what might happen next. Maybe you first start to do a project together, go into a hackathon together, or even do a startup together. I actually met some folks, they did a startup because they found someone in a tech conference they went, and then they just click, and the startup went really well right now. So you never know what might happen. And also, one of the most valuable things of those tech community is that it creates a safe space for learning and growth, right? Empathy and understanding. Tech can be really intimidating sometimes. It's so easy to feel like we don't know enough because it's constantly emerging. So being a good community, you will find folks that they're just generally trying to help, whether it's like debugging an issue, reviewing your CV, or just give out career advice. It's also a safe space for asking questions. There's no such thing called a stupid question, okay, folks? Everybody was a beginner once, and in those space, people encourage learning without judgment. And also mentorship and guidance. Some of the best advice that I ever received from folks are actually from the folks I met at tech communities, and I still practice on those advice. I realized that a simple conversation with the right person at the right time can totally change your perspective and even lead to some future opportunity. So I remember when I was in my final year, we all know like a tech part-time job for final year student, they are quite rare. And then, so I used to volunteer at a conference called Women Tech Makers Belfast, and I volunteered there like 2 years before joining the team. Oops. Probably my glam, you know, yeah. And so I met a fellow from there, and then he turns out to be the COO of a company. And just after a couple of chats, we connect on LinkedIn. One night when I was going out with my friends, going out for pints, and then saw him there. We just chit-chat. And that's when I know he invited me to check out his office, check out with his teams, and also see their products to see if there's a place that I would like to work at. And somehow I got a part-time job at there. You know, it just came out from no space. I mean, it came out from nowhere. So if you're ever feeling lost or a little bit unsure about your current journey, right? Joining the right community can really make a difference. I know that exactly happened to me. And I'm sure in the South, because I live in Belfast, I live in the North. But you know what? I'm sure there's a lot of tech communities down South here. You can find them on Eventbrite, LinkedIn, Meetup, etc. There's a lot of platforms there, and then just make sure that you go to those, you join those tech community and go to those ones that align with your interests and career goal. So it's great. It's great that, we are joining, participating in those tech community, going to those meetups and conferences. But what if? What if I want to do more, right? Because one thing about, one of the biggest myths about networking is about like, you're just talking to people. But you know what? It's also about what you contribute. So first, why volunteering is valuable? Isn't it just about like free labor, Well, we don't get paid, so probably true, But it's really great to, always great to get back to the community, and also it could lead to a lot of future opportunities. I remember when I was started at university, by the way, I just graduated this year. So when I was started 4 years ago, I went to the Oslo University Computing Society's open nights, and there I met a team of lovely folks, and afterward I volunteered there, joined the team, and then suddenly become their chair. So when I was joining, it's a really new society. Like we're talking about like 40 people, something like that. It's really small, and it was really new also. And we weren't talking anything like we had a existing resource there, like a potential list of sponsors, speaker, or workshop hosts. And as organizer, without them, they can be really tricky. So what happened at that time? Me and my team, we just went out to basically all the tech events in Northern Ireland, try to build our network for ourselves and also for the Computer Society. Within 1 year, we organized roughly 20 events, including 2 hackathons and even a formal for some reason. Yeah, it was really good. And then one day we got an email from the student union suddenly informing us we become the largest society and also university across all campus. We was like, wait, what? We did not expect that, That was not the goal. And then one evening when I was in the hackerspace, it's called Facet Lab, which is a charity also in Northern Ireland. So I was there just try to seek maybe there's some potential collaborations, Also I want to try their 3D printers also. So I met the folks who manage that place, and after a couple of chats, that person invited me to join Northern Ireland Developer Conference, which is the largest tech conference in Northern Ireland. Joined there as a partnership lead, and since from that moment, things started to snowball, one thing led to another. So there are a lot of benefit when we are organizing things, So like for example, okay, folks, imagine yourself that you are organizer of DevFest Ireland today. What do you have to do? Yeah, do budget management, planning, communication, marketing, reach out to sponsors, speaker, venue, after party, anything. There's so many things you have to do, okay? And those experiences are extremely unique. It's not something that you can find anywhere else. And when you are practicing those things and when you're doing all those things, you develop a lot of skills that you might not even realize. And they are transferable to so many roles out there. And also visibility, because when you're actually contributing, volunteering, organizing things, Well, it increases your visibility because it's not just about like who you know, but also about who knows you. So when you're constantly engaging, showing up, contributing, people start to remember you. And when opportunity arise, you'll be top of the mind. And for the networking side, for the organizers and event team ourselves, is that we do have an advantage on like connecting with sponsors, speaker, and attendees, because you know what? It's about the responsibility, because you want to make sure that everybody's enjoying, you know, everybody's having a good time, but it's also a benefit. So if you feel like, oh my goodness, you know what, this is my cup of tea, okay, this sounds so good. So how do I get started? The easiest way, just reach out to the organizers there, you know, but make sure that you went to their event before, otherwise it can feel a little bit strange, and then you can gradually take on more responsibility. And that's exactly what happened to me, because I start off as an attendee, then a volunteer, then an organizer, and then a speaker, and voila, I'm here today, you know. Just remember that you don't have to be an expert to start, but just show up, engage, and be willing to learn. So folks, I'm not here to sell you anything, okay? But let's be real though, participating and organizing things, they have a lot of huge benefits, right? But it's not without its own challenge. Well, first, fill out DevFest meetup, especially, or conference. Everyone will walk in the room and feel like, Jesus Christ, everybody here is so smart. What am I doing here? Well, imposter syndrome is real, you know, and if you ever feel like that, you're not alone. I remember my first time going to a meetup. It was a Pi Belfast meetup, and I was in my first year, even first semester in my uni, and Jesus Christ, I had no idea what they were talking about. I think maximum I understand like 15%, and it feels really intimidating. But you know what? Everybody starts somewhere, okay? Your goal is to be there, you know, don't be afraid to ask questions, take notes, and also just keep reminding yourself, learning is the goal. Also for like time commitment, we're talking about balancing, maybe you have a full-time job, right? Balancing job and then also personal life, family, maybe you have a partner, friends, and then maybe you will have personal hobby. Now we're talking about joining tech communities and even organizing things. That's a lot of things, and things can go on, you know, the list go on. So my advice about that is to be selective, you know. Don't attend all the events out there, because there are so many things, you know. You probably can find like each day there's some tech events happening, and going to all of them, even most of them, can feel like really intimidating and really tiring. So my advice about that, just don't attend anything, everything. Make sure just you go to the one that aligns with your interests. Also, opportunity cost. This is slightly related with the time commitment that I was just saying there, because we need to know that the time we spend on those conference or meet up, they are time away from your personal life and personal hobby, etc. You know, so really do prioritize those events and community that can provide you high value connections and learning opportunity. Lastly, stress and pressures. And I'm sure we all been through that, you know, for the stress, those kind of part. But this part, I kind of want to speak it in a way that to the folks who want to be an organizer or who are already is an organizer. Things happen, okay, folks? Sometimes things can go really wrong, and but you know what? Do not be afraid to set out boundaries, okay? Take things step by step, because the key is to, having the balance to taking the advantage of those opportunities that provided to you while making sure that you don't burn out. And speaking of burnout, I have an example here. So a couple years ago, I was organizing a tech conference in the South, and I was mainly managing sponsors and speakers, and a lot of them take from like personal contacts. So I really need to make sure that the conference went really well, okay? I don't want to look ugly or anything about that. 2 weeks before the conference, I was in my university's library room with my team, because we were preparing for the group assignments. I checked my phone and I got a text saying that we suddenly cannot use the venue. There was something wrong about the venue, and yeah, it was just 2 weeks, and then we might have to postpone the conference because we need to find a venue within 2 weeks. And that was really stressful. At that time, when I found out that news, I just went to the bathroom, locked myself there and cried, because it was just too much time. At that time, I was managing like, I had my personal study, university study, like personal project, university assignments. I don't even have time for myself, even for my personal life. So, but thankfully we got it sorted. We just changed to a different venue and everything went really well. After the conference, I went back to Belfast and then locked myself in my room for nearly 3 days. And I didn't even talk to my husband. I don't want to check any social media. I don't want to reply message or email because at the time I was really burnt out. I was just really want to be alone. And that's the lesson I learned from there, because if you don't set out boundaries, something like that, burnout can really eat you up, you know. But if I had a chance to like go back to 5 years ago, you know, would I still make the same decision? Probably, yeah, you know. The pros are still more than the cons, and I would deal better with preventing burnout. So, you know, like tech community can provide a lot of opportunities, benefit to you, but there's also something more that you can contribute to your own career growth, like certification, right? So certification, do they actually matter? You know, how they can help with your career? A lot of folks think like a certification is just like a piece of paper. Some folks might argue like hands-on experience matters more. And some folks might say like, oh, they are the key of landing a job. In my opinion, I think certification, they are like a tool. They can be extremely valuable in the right context, but they are not a replacement for your hands-on skill. So in this session, we'll explore a little bit about like why it matters and how they contribute to your career growth. So let's start with the key reasons why certification can be valuable for your career growth, right? Staying relevant in a fast-changing field. Tech industry moves fast, okay? I think we're all seeing it right now. You know, there's new model, new feature. You find more AI use cases, more and more. And having some certification can help you demonstrate that you are keeping up with the current trend, you know, with the new technology, framework, and best practices. Because I think most of them, they are like, you need to renew it every 3-4 years, something like that. Also, signaling commitment and motivation. Well, certification, they're not just for yourself, but they can also like show that you are very serious about like your career, that you're willing to take an extra effort to learn. Uh-oh, I think it crashed. 1 second. Okay. Sorry, 1 sec. I use my mouse. Don't think the clicker is working at the moment. So it also like increased career mobility and flexibility. So in some certain industry, having some certification, they are quite recommended or even required. I see some job posts, I was really shocking to see like it's a required field, you know? So like for example, in DevOps or cybersecurity, having some recognized certification can really make you stand out. But you know what, folks? Not all certifications, they're equally valuable. Their impact really depends on the industry, demand, and how well you apply the knowledge. I sometimes like to see certification, what they like, you know, they're like a gym membership. Just by having it doesn't make you fit, you know, you have to use it. So should you get certification? It really depends, you know, if it, benefits your career, go for it, you know. But if you are just collecting certification, like without practicing those knowledge, personally, I would recommend like, you know, focus on getting hands-on experience. Before we move on to this topic, Jesus Christ, I need to have a glass of water. I don't even talk to my husband that much every day, by the way. So networking, folks, it's great. Just like here today, you know, we are meeting new folks, exchanging ideas, having conversation. That feels great, right? But sometimes it can feel a little bit awkward, intimidating, or even feel a little bit forced, you know. I believe that good networking happens naturally, you know, just through exchanging like real world experience, share interests, and genuine conversation. So in this session, we will dive in a little bit like how to build meaningful connection in a way that feels authentic and natural. So, oh gosh, why it went back, I had no idea. 1 second, sorry. Oops. Okay, we're here. So first of all, let's have a clear personal introduction. So your personal introduction is your chance to make a strong first impression. Tip number 1, be real and keep it concise, okay? Instead of saying something like maybe you're a student, right? I noticed that there are quite some students here in the room. So imagine yourself, you're a student, right? I'm a student studying computer science. Well, try something else, elaborate it a little bit. Maybe say something like, oh, I'm a student studying computer science. I'm really interested in cybersecurity and currently learning about ethical hacking and pen testing. Tip number 2, be honest about where you are in your journey. And personally, I had no idea why people don't do that. It sometimes feels really awkward. If you are in your early career or just exploring a new field, just say so, okay, folks? It's often relatable and people won't judge you about that. Also, end with an open invitation. So when you are having a conversation, invite the other party to share something about their work or interest, because this is a great way to keep the conversation going, and this will shift the focus from selling yourself to starting a conversation. So, and also one of the biggest things that I think people make in networking is that folks think about, it's just about talking to people, right? But it's also about listening. And like I mentioned before, ask open-ended questions. It's a really great way. Also, focus on their journey and listen. Show you're listening through follow-up question. And lastly, remember small detail for future conversation. That's my favorite tip, honestly. Let's take an example. Like here today, if you are chatting with some folks, right, and then they are telling you, oh, I'm currently preparing for a cloud certification. Next time when you see them, you can tell to them like, hey, how did the certification exam go? It's those small moments of genuine interest that can turn casual conversation into a long-term professional network. I mean, sure, step by step, you need more than that. But you know what? Little things add up. So what I mentioned for this talk is that we talk about certification, we talk about tech community, joining those space, going to conference, volunteering, and also about networking, right? When you are practicing all of those things, you're actually building a personal brand. So personal brand, we heard this term a lot, right? But what does it actually mean? Some folks might think personal brand, it's about self-promotion, post on LinkedIn every day or trying to be famous in the industry, But in reality, personally, I think having a strong personal brand isn't about making much noise. It's about making an impact. Your personal brand is simply what other people, when they hear your name, they suddenly associate that with you. It's about building a reputation or something valuable, and in a way that feels authentic to you. So before you start to build out a personal brand, you need to know that exactly what you want to be known for. So how do you figure this out? Well, let's do a self-reflection, okay? Ask ourselves, what topic excites me the most? What am I naturally good at? And what I enjoy working on the most? Taking some time to do self-reflection is the foundation of building a memorable brand. Think about the skills and qualities that others often notice in you, And that's really a great way to build our personal brand. And also, you can ask feedbacks from the other folks also. And then you can ask your classmates, colleagues, friends, or even family to tell you what they see you as your unique strength. But you know what, folks? Make sure that aligns with what you enjoy. Your personal brand should be built around something that you actually enjoy doing, not just something that you feel oh, it looks cool, that's a current trend or whatever, something like that. That will make maintaining your brand a lot more easier and natural. So for instance, if you're interested about accessibility in tech, make this part of your brand. So when you align your brand with your genuine interest together, it's easier to stay authentic and connect with others. A great way for building a personal brand is by build up credibility. Is to share what you know, right? But that doesn't mean you have to be an expert, okay? Even you're still learning, document your journey and help others along the way. So first, choose a platform. There are so many social media platforms out there, pick your poison. Personally, I recommend to use LinkedIn because that is a norm to go for. And also share valuable insight. So when you post, think about what would be useful for the others to see. Did you learn something interesting or cool in a course, What summarize it in a post. Did you face a challenge in a project? What about how you solve it? Did you attend a conference or a meetup? Well, share some key takeaways. When you post, think about what would be valuable for your audience, like tips, lesson learned, and project highlights. But that doesn't mean you have to post every day, okay? But showing up regularly and constantly. And do not be afraid to engage with other people's content also. Instead of just clicking the like button, you can comment in, and then that will make your brand more approachable and help others to connect with your brand. I really do feel like building a personal brand really takes time, and I don't have a time frame for you. And often I feel like this is gonna be an ongoing process. Ask ourselves, 5 years ago myself and myself right now, are they the same? Probably not, because we are constantly changing. Our perspective change, our interests change, the way we see things change, and our personal brand reflects who we are. So it really takes time, and it's gonna be an ongoing journey. And when I was reading a book called Atomic Habits, if anybody want to grow a habit or something, check out that book. That book is really great. So this value of disappointment, this concept was introduced in the book. So when we think about like our effort and the time we invested in to do something, we want to see the result straight away. We're always gonna see it in the linear way, but what is happening the most of the time is gonna be a U-curve. And you see the point that is intercept what you expected and what is actually happening. That is the value of disappointment. And folks sometimes think about the hobby you're trying to grow, you drop it, maybe like going to the gym, or like start to have some self-learning every day or something like that. Sometimes I drop because we don't see the results straight away. And stuck in that area, the value of disappointment can be really daunting, and then can be really frustrated. So, but you know what? Your effort did not go to waste. The time you invested in those things, they did not go to waste. They just been stored in that area, waiting for a certain threshold to hit. Then you can see the result significantly. So if you ever stuck in that valley of disappointment and then feel a little bit struggle, please feel free to just drop me a message, okay? We can have a chat online, I live in the north, so probably we cannot go for a drink, But yeah, that is the end of this talk, and I really hope that you folks gain some key takeaways. I'm still practicing, trying to be a better speaker or something like that, and be good at public speaking. It really takes time. So if anybody had any questions or even feedback, okay, please feel free to drop me a message or just catch me later, all right? Thank you so much for listening.